Hi, it's Joy and today I'm going to be watching Lucifer Season 6, Episode 1. Nothing ever changes around here, which is not true because everything has changed because Lucifer is now God. This is the final season and that's kind of a bittersweet feeling going into it. I'm actually kind of like apprehensive to start it because I know that once I finish the season, that's it. Also, Season 5 really hurt me, so I'm scared, but I'm also so excited to see this show, to have a season of what hopefully is going to be like a season of celebration of the love that we as fans have for the show and that everyone that makes the show has had for this show. And, you know, I have a lot of faith in them to go out with a bang that leaves us all feeling really happy and satisfied. A reminder that, as always, you can find the unedited version of this reaction on my Patreon. You get that 2 weeks in advance, the edited version 1 week in advance, all depending on different tiers. And let's go. This is so similar to Season 1. Very similar. Am I accidentally watching Season 1?
You're the officer who likes to drive fast with his siren on.
Yeah, from Season 1.
I was afraid you wouldn't recognize me.
Oh.
Wow.
I'm just so happy they're together.
Here all night surrounded by mysteries and not try to figure out.
It is Chloe, detective.
You are a truth seeker. Do we really need to start tomorrow?
Oh.
We're having so much fun.
Lucifer, you keep putting it off.
Are you sure? Because I feel this would...
Hold that thought.
Lucifer, it's a ginormous responsibility, and yes, he's a much better god than Michael, in my opinion, than the original, but...
You just can't help yourself, can you?
Mr. Morningstar.
Why do I feel like someone's about to be murdered, and they're gonna solve it together? For old time's sake.
She's locked it.
We couldn't do that for ourselves, but he's so excited.
You're not solving any mysteries tonight.
I need to solve this mystery, so I can feel confident that we're not watching a murder and laughing about it. Lucifer, he's dead.
You stay hidden in the box and then he emerges here dressed as you and then takes your bow?
Yes, he's hidden in there the entire time.
Lucifer.
That it's empty.
Sure that there's more that I've remained blissfully unaware of.
No, that's pretty much it.
Do you know of anyone who would want to...
Not now, Dad.
Well, no worries there, because we're not actually the police.
Currently, no, we're not.
Yeah, she misses it already.
I'm dragging my bag to Lucifer and Chloe-less crime scenes and now boom! Those are witnesses! Oh, this is so amazing. I mean,
Rest in peace.
horrible.
So did the son do it because his dad picked someone else to be the one to hand it over to?
Any friend of Dan's is, you know. I'm glad you could transfer in.
Chloe doesn't have to be a detective anymore. I don't have to have magic women for the rest of my life. And we can still make the 8:30 show in the parlour, so if you don't mind.
You know,
There's been a murder. Yeah, I don't know that there's going to be an 8:30 show in the parlour. Well, gotta push the date of going to heaven up now, because you didn't get to see the act in the parlour.
To what you'll be doing while Maze is ruling? I'm gonna support my girl in all her work. She's gonna be the greatest.
Remember how we were finding you something for you to do, sweetheart?
definitely still believe. It's just...
No one's answering. It doesn't feel like...
This...
You gotta get up there. Yep.
Saying that my work saves lives, but...
So you know Magnar? Huh.
Chloe is still working this case.
Another magician was with him from the time he got here until the start of the show, so you really need to talk to him.
She can't just put down the detectiving. It's who she is.
The killer is still in the building. Locked room mystery, you guys.
Ooh.
So, who's up for an all-nighter?
Chloe is, but she needs to act like, oh, this is distressing Lucifer. They need to be, though I do hope they do talk, and she can say she misses being a detective.
Not that it's my place to ask anymore, but...
Oh,
So
Chloe.
let's just start with what you were doing.
I feel like he's going to turn around and see Chloe over his shoulder.
Easy. I was bribing a motorcycle cop.
You were bribing a police officer.
Recently defeated a Yakuza boss in a duel. And I did stab a man through the heart.
Lucifer, you're going to become his suspect.
Because that is exactly how Jared was killed.
It was charged on Erica's
Credit card.
Chloe, you're so not subtle.
And I could run the social calendar. I can meet everyone.
There isn't really a social calendar in hell.
Just so I'm clear, what is it that you picture me doing exactly?
They need to talk
Cleaning
about
and
this.
Cooking for just you?
You feel lonely. I mean, how twisted is that?
I'm joining the police force.
Anyone with just their partner would be lonely.
Academy for a while now.
You're gonna tell me that doesn't look bad?
Oh, God, Chloe!
What do you do?
It's Carl's job now. What?
Carol.
Really? Ooh.
I know, it's a weird name for a man. I still think it was too rash that she quit being a detective last season, because we still don't know how everything's going to work. Maybe Lucifer, like, is she planning to move to heaven? What will happen with Trixie? You know, there's just too much. She was far too rash.
Look, this isn't easy on me either. I'm starting a new
Yes,
day job.
honesty here.
And the commute. I think that there might be some deeper reasons behind these excuses, and that maybe we should talk about them.
Agreed. Open emotional honesty.
Bingo. Sort of. I found a bead.
Can we get like a democracy in heaven somehow?
Miss Lopez, a question?
I don't have a thing for Carol at all. I don't think he's cute.
That wasn't the question.
Oh.
When you said you didn't feel...
I mean, being ever present is God's whole thing.
Yeah.
That's what makes the
Doesn't God have personal matters to attend to? The odd round of golf or...
Lucifer, you did jump before you knew where you were
He's not
going.
like you and me. We are all God's loved ones. The only thing that God cares about is caring about us.
Well, at the end of
Oh dear, God says. There goes a tsunami heading towards a poor village. Nothing I can do about it. Not the kind of caring I care for.
He is there for everyone,
That is the concept.
or at least he's supposed to be.
I think it would be much better than having one God, especially now we know the way it works out, especially now we know, like, that it is just a person, basically. That it should be like Lucifer and Amenadiel, and even Michael, though Michael has done too much shitty stuff, but hypothetically, you know, I can't think of any other angels' names. You know, there should be a few people who are God, who, like, they take shifts, or they're a council, and so they can take time off and things. And if there's an important decision, everyone comes to vote, because it's way too much responsibility for one person. God clearly, in my opinion, was doing a very shit job of it, because kids get cancer, there are tsunamis, global warming is happening. There are things he could do that wouldn't infringe on free will, that, yeah, like, again, I get a lot of dislikes on my videos because I don't like God, but I think in this concept, like, it's too much for one person. It made God into, even if we just take Lucifer at what we've seen at base value, and also I just want to say that I fully respect anyone who is religious, and I will, like, fight for you to be allowed to be religious, but I'm also allowed to not be, is that this God that we saw, he was emotionally stunted. He was essentially abusive towards his children because he could not do anything else. He did not know how to emote and be a person. That isn't healthy, so I think it would be much better off if we could end this with multiple people being God.
You should have thought of that before you killed Jared. Turn around, you're under arrest. Turn around.
Miss Decker.
You can't arrest people.
It's complicated enough when humans meet their partners.
They need to talk this through before they jump in. Maybe they'll figure it out, like, jumping in the deep end first, but it's better to figure it out
You
first.
don't want me spending time with your family.
I don't want to talk about hell.
We're going there.
Linda.
Amenadiel.
Linda.
I don't want to talk about it because I don't want to go.
Yes, this is necessary, mate. I'm proud of you.
I don't want to go to hell either. I just thought going home would make
She
me
knew that.
happy.
I don't need to go home to be happy.
They were both trying to just
My hell.
do it.
I love Bethany.
You're my hell.
So I love you. I love our life.
This is
We can
everything.
do this forever.
Forever? Yeah. Yeah, hell yeah.
This is so lovely.
Did we just get engaged?
Yes. This is now an engagement party. I love this. I love this. I love this. Yes, Linda did good. And we get to keep them. It's important in couples to talk, even if you're scared you're going to hurt the other person, because if you keep it in and you don't tell them how you're feeling and then they end up in hell, how much worse would it be? Lucifer and Chloe. There goes my suspect.
While I do not appreciate you running a parallel investigation for the entire evening,
You could
I
help.
would truly appreciate your thoughts now.
I like him. I see why Dan liked him.
It's worth a lot of money. I heard a lot of whispers about a...
It's the sun, which I said right at the beginning.
I asked Magda.
What kind of law did you say the son practices?
Holy shit. That made me jump.
No, there's no way out of here.
There's a secret passage right there, right?
That's where you're wrong.
Hurry!
He's very strong. Much adrenaline. Okay, it's gonna do him absolutely no good to hurt Chloe at this point. Right? Like, she's a good hostage. Plus maybe when he's distracted and not expecting her, she could take him out. Because he doesn't think much of her. That's why he went for her and not the cop. Yeah! She still has it.
You are worthy of your father's legacy.
This isn't so much an issue of worth. It's
Or if he wants
an
it.
issue of job description. Much as I claim to know what will happen to me when I become God, I don't.
This is what we need, open, honest communication. Maybe now that we've stopped Michael, we could dedicate our time to finding someone truly worthy of being God who wants to.
I'm a good friend. And an even better therapist. I mean, you saw. From almost broken up to engaged over a single dinner. I mean, I should put that on my website.
So you thought you would get a rush from some celestial therapy one last time before... You are just as much of a hero as you are fighting a war for the throne of heaven. Every
I love this.
matters.
Yeah. From that night, is he going to hell to see Dan? Because I want to see Dan, so we can help him figure out his issues and get him to heaven. Maybe Dan can become God. But then Dan should get to see Trixie in 185 years when she lives an unnaturally long life and then finally passes away in her sleep.
Hey, there you are, buddy. What's up?
Oh, bless him.
What's the plan this time?
Oh, has he been checking in on him to help him work through stuff already?
I can't think of anything new. I've just come to check in.
Almost 1,000 years down here, and you still can't keep the party going.
Oh, Dan. Oh, I'm so glad he's looking out for him.
Don't come back here unless you actually have the answer.
Have you worked through your guilt of leaving Trixie? Because Maze isn't coming down to rule. Is somebody else going to? Stressed? Oh my god, that was such a good first episode. So somebody new has taken the throne of heaven. It looked like an angel because there were angel wings, but I obviously do not recognise her feet. Oh my god, is that why Dan hasn't been able to make it out? Because there wasn't someone in charge? Or has she only just come? I guess the lightning was her arriving. Maybe because Maze didn't, so she just went and did it herself. I'm very intrigued by who this is. I'm stressed at what that could mean for Dan, of everyone in hell, because it seems like a lot of just good people down there. But for Dan, I'm so glad we got to see him this episode. I'm so glad that, okay, the idea of him being stuck in a purgatory for 1,000 years is horrible, but we know he's not being actively tortured, and we know that he's actually tried to work through any issues he's got. And I guess over the 1,000 years, every time he succumbs, he has a plan about how to try and get him to get through things, get him to like, oh, maybe this time we could work through your guilt about this or whatever. And it's interesting, is Dan actually, is there some deep, dark thing that he isn't dealing with? Or is somebody else doing it to him to stop him from being able to ascend? I'm just so glad we checked in with him. It doesn't make it okay that he doesn't get to watch his daughter grow up. It doesn't make it okay that Trixie has lost her father. It doesn't make it okay that he's lost the chance to grow old and fall in love again and see his grandchildren. You know, none of that makes it okay. The fact that he's dead, but just getting to see him, and yes, he's frustrated and stressed, but he's not being tortured, and Lucifer's been checking in on him, and that's a lot. I sort of hope at some point we can tell Trixie the truth, because we can fly up to heaven and down to hell and whatever. I mean, I wouldn't want to take Trixie to hell even to visit Dan, but like, we could fly, like, right? You know, she could go visit and then come back. If Chloe's going to be able to visit and come back, hypothetically. I adored Linda's idea of the hell-themed dinner. And I think, yeah, she was like, kind of, they touched on the fact that she was getting one last kick out of one last celestial case, because Lucifer's been her client for a very long time now, and he's about to leave. Or at least supposedly about to leave. And I think as well, the fact that she's just this, how hard it would be to just go back to normal life, even though she's, I don't know if she's dating a Menadel or if they're just like living together and co-parenting. He's living a very normal life. If all the other Celestials go, there aren't really going to be any Celestial problems. We, at one point, were worried her baby would have wings. He's just normal and human, and while that is reassuring in a lot of ways, it's also kind of the end of an era for her as well. I hope she will work through it and go back to realising that just because the problems you're dealing with are smaller inside, like Menadel said, that doesn't mean they don't matter. And for Maze and Eve to finally talk about it, Eve, like, you know, Maze doesn't want to go. Eve didn't want to go, but they both were doing what they thought would make the other one happy. They both thought, that's what they really want, so I'm going to do it for them. And I think that's why it's so necessary in any kind of a relationship. Even if you're scared it will rock the boat, it's only going to be worse in the long run if you go along with something that makes you miserable until you reach, because eventually you will reach breaking point and you will say, I never wanted to come here, and you will probably start resenting that person because you only came because they wanted you to be there. So I think that was a really necessary conversation, and the fact that it ended with them getting engaged. I mean, Eve is extremely spontaneous and always has been, but I think we have seen the build-up of their relationship. Eve took the time away to learn about herself, and even then she realised that she wanted to be with Maze. So I think that is a healthy sign still. People can get married somewhat quickly, and I'm just really happy for them, and I'm looking forward to hopefully seeing the wedding. Maybe they could have a double wedding with Lucifer and Chloe, just saying. The other main plotline, obviously, this episode was Lucifer and Chloe, and I really don't know where this is going in terms of Lucifer being God. I made a lot of flippant comments last season about how Lucifer will be a better God than the God, original God, and I stand by those. At least, you know, he can't be worse in my opinion. But I've never really thought he was the best fit for the role. I don't really think anyone is the best fit for the role, and I stand by what I said in this, that there should be a council of people so that you don't have to be totally selfless to be God, because that's sort of, it's unrealistic. God himself was not a particularly good, like, he was a father, but he was a crap father. And I think he would have been a better God if he had more of an understanding of the emotions and the reality of the life he was observing and monitoring. It's interesting to me that Ella can only now tell that there's no one answering her prayers. That concept is very weird, because I know, like, I think the only time I've ever prayed with any degree of seriousness was when I was very young. Like, I don't actually remember maybe I was like 10. Did the tsunami happen in 2003? I don't know, when that awful tsunami hit on Boxing Day, and hearing all about that on the news, I remember before bed I got on my knees and I prayed. I was like, I don't know if I believe there's anyone up there, but I was a child, so I had to go. I prayed. And yeah, did not feel like anyone was answering me at any point. And yeah, I just think that's a really interesting concept, because in this show, obviously, we know there is a God, so that does show that Lucifer not being up there, nobody having the throne, is causing problems, which is another reason why God just being like, oh, I'm leaving, you sort out who's is so emblematic of why God, as depicted in this show, is a bad parent and a bad God. Now, either way, even if I don't necessarily think Lucifer would be a good God, even if I think Lucifer may well be coming to the same decision as Maze, maybe he doesn't want that, he is still a better option than Michael. If it comes down to Lucifer or Michael, it would actually be better for Lucifer to do it and hate it than for Michael to do it in the first place, because Michael is evil, or at the very least, morally misguided, and I think he would make the world a much worse place. So definitely it is better that it's Lucifer, because those were the only options we were presented with. Like, Amenadiel didn't want it, and there is no clear successor, and I don't know who would want it, who would want to go to heaven and be utterly selfless and devote themselves to people. And I don't mean that, like, in a lot of ways, yes, that sounds amazing, but I think most people have pre-existing attachments, especially most people that are good and caring. You know, I wouldn't want to do it because I still want to care about my friends and my family, and I wouldn't want to just not have anything for myself. Like, it's one thing to look out for people, but I think everyone deserves to have people in their lives. So maybe Lucifer would find that he could ascend to the Silver City and still be with Chloe and still have people in his life, but I don't think it's reasonable to expect anybody, especially anybody that has experienced otherwise. And like I said, I think God actually would have done a better job had he had more of an awareness. So maybe 2 or 3 people on a council would be the best way to deal with this. And I do think, like I said, Lucifer did it very reactionary, but it was also, we had to stop Michael. Michael would be the worst choice for that role. And then Chloe, she wants to be a detective, and to be honest, if Lucifer is planning to be God with Chloe, similarly to Eve, like, what is Chloe gonna do in heaven if she's at his side? Now, I do think that, like, there would be stuff to do. Heaven is not a scary place, so, like, there would be a lot that she could do, but I think in a way, why can't Chloe be a detective and Lucifer be God and visit and, like, you know, after work spend time together, and then he can go back and be God during the time that she's at work, especially if time maybe passes differently on heaven the same way it passes differently in hell. I don't know. I think there have always been, we don't know where it's going to go. The fact that Chloe quit her job and so wholeheartedly just threw herself into this path, it was really it was really powerful because it was her showing to Lucifer that she believed in him, that she believed he was worthy, and that, you know, she was willing to do that for him. But I also think it was a bit quick because we still don't know how everything's going to shape up. And, you know, I'm glad you said about commuting, but I still think she was a bit rash in quitting her job, and I kind of hope she does get it back because it makes her happy. It's not like, you know, there is no, other than like reacting, there is no career path for me that has ever spoken to me. Now maybe when I am able to leave my house again, because I haven't left my house since March 2020, guys, and, you know, get back on the road to figuring out what kind of job I can do with my CFS ME. It's all a thing. Maybe I will stumble across a job that I truly love and that completes me. But I also don't think there's anything wrong with being somebody who you work because we live in a capitalist society and then you come home and you do stuff that completes you. That's how I live, at least. But for Chloe, her work has always meant a lot to her. And I don't think she would be totally happy without it. Now, I think it's worth a try for her to see what there is for her to do in heaven, and maybe she will find something similar. But it's a lot. And I think for Lucifer, he should really admit, he needs to come to terms with the fact that maybe he doesn't want to be God, and we need to figure out what we're going to do instead. How can we make everything work without him? Who's on the throne of hell? That is a lot as well. There is a small part of me that wonders as well, that is the reason Lucifer's been kicking his heels and not going quickly because he wants to help Dan first. Maybe he hasn't told anybody because he doesn't want to get their hopes up as well. Is that why he doesn't want to go? Once he's God, could he no longer pop to hell? Would that be something like, as God, is he stuck in heaven? Maybe he can come to earth like God did, but I guess hell, can God not go there? So is he maybe actually, to begin with, putting it off? Yes, out of like selfish reasons of he enjoys life on earth, same as Maze. This is where he's found his purpose and things that he enjoys, and he doesn't want to change that. But I do wonder how much of that was him wanting to help Dan before he goes, because he doesn't want to leave him down there because he loves him and he cares about him as much as he would never admit that. I like Carol. I think he seems like a good cop, like on the straight and narrow. He seems good for Ella because he seems like a good guy, but he's not like an idiot. I don't know. Dan thought they'd be good together, and Dan's a good judge of character. I think especially having been a bad judge of character, Dan became a very good judge of character. So I am excited to see more of him, and I'm excited ideally for them to go back to being detectives with her devil sidekick. I don't know. I really don't know where the season's going to go, and that's really fun, really exciting, but it's also really scary, and I have no idea who's in hell and what that's going to mean for the rest of us. Largely I'm terrified about what that's going to mean for Dan, because if Lucifer ordered all of their demons to not torture him, and the new person in hell is like, nah, I said go you torture everybody, that will very much stress me out. But I am very excited to see where the show goes next. A reminder that you can find the unedited version of this reaction on my Patreon, the edited version 2 weeks in advance, the 1 week in advance, the unedited version 2 weeks in advance. I am posting episodes 1 and 2 for my Patreon, will be up on, by the time you're watching this one on YouTube, episodes 1 and 2 will be up both edited and unedited, and episode 3 will also be up unedited on my Patreon. And yes, thank you so much for watching.